Welcome to Progress Agentic RAG. Progress Agentic RAG is a comprehensive RAG-as-a-service platform that enables you to build intelligent document search and question-answering systems for your knowledge solutions. In this video, we will be guiding you through creating a smart RAG solution that uses an MCP server to retrieve information, including using the workflow functionality to create an agentic RAG solution that uses an MCP server, and how to deploy our finished workflow so that our users can begin using the agent. But first, let's discuss a couple notes. When creating an agentic RAG solution like the one in this video, you will need access to an MCP server that connects to your backend data, and configure an MCP source in Progress Agentic RAG. Refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation for more information on creating an MCP source. In addition, this video is part of a series where we create workflows for different use cases. We recommend combining the different techniques described in these videos to create an agentic workflow that is best for you. And for an overview of Progress Agentic workflows, refer to the Creating Your First Agentic Workflow video in this series or the Progress Agentic RAG documentation. Before we get started, let's briefly describe our use case and outline what we are trying to achieve. In our example, we are a small retailer that keeps its customer service information and documents in a Salesforce instance. Instead of posting our content on static web pages, we would like to expose that information to our customers through a chat box. To do that, we've set up an MCP server to make our documents accessible, but we need an AI agent to retrieve that data and synthesize responses. Therefore, we need to create a workflow that retrieves our data, uses a smart agent to plan our responses, and synthesizes a response. In addition, we need to deploy the chat box so that our users can access the information through our public website. We are ready to get started. First, we will need to create our workflow. Navigate to your Progress RAG account, then click Create a Retrieval Agent. In the agent's profile window, provide an agent name, then select your region. We will name our agent Test, and then select USA region. Now, open your agent from the list. Next, from the Agent Workflows view, click the Add Workflow button. Provide a name and, optionally, a description for your workflow. I'm going to use Customer Service for the name and a brief description. Now, open your workflow from the list. The canvas for your workflow opens. In this view, you can add and configure nodes to build your workflow. Notice the 4 stages that are used to build workflows: pre-process, retrieval context, generation, and post-process. In addition, it is worth noting the Test Agent tool in the corner. With the Test Agent tool, you can instantly specify and run prompts against your workflow as you make updates. This allows you to directly observe the effect your design choices have on your results. Let's start with the pre-processing stage. In general, the pre-processing stage allows you to specify rules to make the user query to perform better, although currently only the rephrasing agent is supported. The rephrasing agent offers a number of options to help you to refine the user question, including specifying user information, incorporating user history, and defining synonyms for keywords. The pre-process stage is useful in many scenarios. However, we will not need it for our example. Given that, let us move on to the retrieval context stage. The retrieval context stage is used to configure how the workflow retrieves data from one or more of your sources, such as AI agents, databases, and knowledge boxes. In addition, you can add and configure decision-making behaviors to improve your results. Let's start by configuring our sources of data. First, click the Add button to add a node, then select Smart Agent. When configured, the Smart Agent will help plan our responses and direct our queries to the appropriate documents in our knowledge source. For our example problem, the default configuration will be sufficient. However, it's worth noting a few fields that you might want to configure for your environment. First, from the Smart Agent view, scroll down to the Extra Prompt field. This field is used to provide a prompt that explains which nodes should be used to retrieve what types of information. You will want to use this if you are using multiple knowledge sources with your agent. Next, let's discuss the Planning Mode option. This option specifies how your smart agent plans to retrieve data for a query. When set to reactive, the agent returns results once it believes it has enough information to answer the query. This option offers the best performance, but it might not always produce the best answer for larger knowledge sources and more complicated queries. Conversely, when set to plan execute, the agent first defines a plan, including the information needed, the questions it should ask the sources, and the different possibilities to consider. Next, the agent executes the plan, and then generates a response. Essentially, the agent tries to be more thorough during discovery, but it does so at the expense of performance. Finally, take note of the context validation, rephrase model, planner model, and executor model fields. These fields are used to select the LLM used for different node operations. For our example, it's fine to use the default. However, once you are ready to begin building your own workflows or move to production, you might want to select premium or specialized models to improve your results. Click Save to add the node. Now, let's connect our agent to our MCP server. On the Smart Agent node, click the Add button next to the Registered Agents branch. Then select MCP Agent. This node connects to an MCP server that allows us to safely retrieve information from the files, databases, and APIs on our backend. On the MCP Agent view, add a description of the node in the description field. The description informs the Smart Agent what kind of information can be retrieved from this MCP server and backend. Therefore, it's critical that you provide sufficient information for the agent to understand the contents of the node. For the purposes of demonstration, we will use something simple, such as Salesforce MCP Server. However, for your environment, you will likely want to provide a more elaborate value. The description field behaves like a prompt. Therefore, your value can consist of complex, plain language descriptions, including examples. Next, scroll down to the Proper Transport Mechanism field, then select the type of mechanism used by the MCP source you created. For our example, we created an HTTP source. Finally, in the Sources field, select your source. These are the only properties we need to configure for our node. However, let's pause to review several other properties: the context validation model, rephrase model, and scroll down to see the top choice model and sampling model. Similar to the Smart Agent node, these fields are used to select the LLM used for different node operations. It's fine to use the default values for our example. However, when you begin building your own workflows or move to production, consider selecting models that better fit your use case. Click Save to proceed. In the generation stage, you configure how your retrieved data is synthesized to produce an answer. You can add prompts, rules, decision-making flows, and more to best address your use case. For our example, we will be adding only a basic summarize node to synthesize a summary of our retrieved results. Similar to the other nodes, click the Add button for the generation stage, then select Summarize. In the Summarize view, you can see a number of options available, including changing to a different model or incorporating prompts to help generate our summary. However, for our example, the default settings are sufficient. Click Save to add your node. The final stage, the post-process stage, is next and is used for configuring external calls and performing REMI evaluation of your workflows. The External Calls tool takes your finished workflow and creates external REST calls that can be used to initiate external processes. This could be used for a number of different applications, including triggering automated workflows or notifying people on your team to take action. While selecting REMI evaluation allows you to use the REMI tool to evaluate the performance of your workflow. This can be very helpful when building and refining your knowledge services. These options aren't required for this workflow, but if you are interested in learning more, refer to the documentation for Progress Agentic RAG. This completes the configuration of our workflow. Now that we are done, we should test it. Click the Test Agent feature button. In the input field, enter a query. Let's ask a support question one of our customers might ask. For example, what is the deadline for returns? The test agent will then return a summary of results from each stage. And at the bottom, you can see that items can be returned within 30 days. This is correct. Our workflow is now working and is ready to publish. Now that our workflow is complete, it is time to deliver it to our users. You can deliver your workflow using several different methods. One option is via the API. You can use this method by integrating the WebSocket endpoint in a custom front-end application. Another option is via an MCP server, which can be done by connecting the agent to any MCP-compliant application. And the final option is to embed the agent as a widget on your website. For our example, we will demonstrate creating a widget for our website. For more information on the API and MCP server options, refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation. To create the widget, select the Widgets tab, then click Create Widget. In the window, provide the name of your widget. I'm calling the widget Customer Service Widget. Next, select the workflow you want to assign to this widget. For example, the name of our workflow, Customer Service. Optionally, you can select the theme of the widget and test your widget. To retrieve the code for your widget, click Embed Widget. Then, in the code snippet window, click Copy. When you are ready, paste the widget code into the HTML of your website. That's it. You've created and delivered your workflow. Thanks for watching. For additional resources, see the description below.